There's a reason people disappear online, and it's not what you think. Not posting isn't shyness. It's not laziness. It's not that they don't have a life worth sharing. It's something darker. It's something deeper. Some people learned early that visibility attracts judgment, that sharing invites comparison, that performance demands a price. So they stopped. They went quiet. And now, they're living lives you have no idea about, and they're probably happier than you are. Today, we're talking about the psychology of silence. Why the most self-aware people you know don't post. Why some people chose to heal in private instead of perform in public. And what they understand about the human mind that we're all still learning. Stay with me. Let's start with something that nobody talks about. There are people living entire lives on social media without posting a single photo. They're at concerts, they're traveling, they're having moments that should be Instagram gold, but their feed, radio silence, completely blank. And here's what most of us get wrong. We think they're the weird ones. We think, why wouldn't you share that? That's the whole point of social media. But what if they figured something out? What if they saw through the illusion first? The loudest people boast the most. The most self-aware people boast the least. That's not a coincidence. Your feed is a graveyard of curated perfection. Someone's posting their vacation from Bali, but you don't see the panic attack they had at the airport. Someone's showing off their transformation, but you don't see the 6 months of depression before that moment. Someone's bragging about their relationship, but you don't know they cried alone that same night. Everyone is performing, and non-posters looked at that stage and said, I'm not getting on it. Here's the thing that's crazy. According to research, 30 to 40% of social media users never post. Never. That's not a small group of weird people. That's millions of individuals who collectively decided that the social media game wasn't worth playing. And they're not sad about it. They're not lonely. They're not missing out. They're actually protecting something you can't see. Something that matters more than engagement. Something that matters more than connection. They're protecting their peace. Let's talk about the first psychological reason. Authenticity anxiety. But don't let the word fool you. This isn't about being anxious about being real. It's the opposite. It's about being allergic to fake personas. Non-posters look at social media and their brain registers something. This is artificial. This is not real. And their nervous system rejects it. You know that feeling when someone is being fake around you? You don't feel comfortable. Your body tenses. You want to leave. That's what happens to non-posters when they think about posting. Their authenticity alarm goes off. This is called impression management theory. Basically, you're managing how people see you. But on social media, it's not just your friend group. It's your entire digital audience. The girl from high school, your boss, that person you once dated, all watching, all judging. And some brains can't handle that. The cognitive load is too much. The inauthenticity is too loud. Non-posters are saying, I refuse to split myself into a real version and a digital version. I refuse to perform. Here's what's wild. Studies show that people who feel pressure to present a false self-experience, higher anxiety and depression. But people who don't post, they escape that pressure entirely. They're not trying to be anything other than what they are. You can't have an anxiety disorder about impression management if you stop managing impressions. But there's something deeper here. Non-posters understand something about human nature. The moment you start curating your life for an audience, you stop living for yourself. You become an actor in your own story instead of the author. And that's a slow form of psychological death. Not sudden, gradual. You stop having experiences because you want them. You have experiences because they photograph well. Non-posters refuse to die that way. Here's the line that explains everything. You don't post because you learn the world doesn't always deserve access to you. Not posting is not shyness. It's self-respect. Now, the second reason people don't post, algorithm anxiety. But let me be more direct. It's the realization that social media platforms are not your friend. They're not neutral. They're parasites. When you post something, you're not just sharing with friends. You're entering into a relationship with an algorithm. And that algorithm doesn't care about you. It cares about your engagement. It wants you addicted. It wants you coming back every 5 minutes to check if your post is getting likes. Think about what happens after you post. You're not living your moment anymore. You're monitoring it, checking, refreshing, comparing. Your dopamine system is literally hooked to the number of likes you're getting. The algorithm doesn't just measure your engagement, it measures your self-worth. And you've given it permission to do that. Non-posters saw this trap, and they said, no thanks. Here's what's happening neurologically. When you get a like, your brain releases dopamine. It's the same chemical that's released during drug use. It's the same reward system. And the algorithm knows this. The engineers who designed it spent years figuring out how to hack your brain's reward system. MIT research shows that people who delete and reinstall social media apps are following addiction patterns. That's not exaggeration. That's clinical observation. Non-posters understand that the moment they start posting, they are surrendering psychological autonomy. They're letting an algorithm dictate when they feel good about themselves, and they're not interested in that arrangement. There's something called locus of control. Basically, do you believe you control your life? Or does something outside you control your life? Non-posters have a stronger internal locus of control. They're not letting the algorithm own them. Here's the dark truth. Every post you make is data. It's information about you. Companies are using it to predict your behavior. Governments are monitoring it. The algorithm is building a psychological profile of you. And silence? Silence is the only privacy left. People who don't post aren't paranoid. They're just aware. The third reason, comparison catastrophe. And this one is existential. Social comparison theory says we figure out our worth by measuring ourselves against other people. That's normal. That's human nature. But social media weaponized that instinct. Your feed is an endless parade of other people's highlight reels. That girl in your feed, more beautiful, more successful, more adventurous, more loved, better life, better body, better everything. And your brain believes it because you only see the filtered version. You see her vacation in Bali. You don't see her anxiety medication. You see her new car. You don't see her debt. You see her perfect relationship. You don't see the text at 2 a.m. where she's crying. But your brain doesn't do the math. Your brain just sees, she's winning, I'm losing. This is called upward social comparison. You're always comparing yourself to people who appear to be better off. And when you do that constantly, depression and anxiety follow. Not sometimes, consistently. Studies literally show the more time you spend on social media, the more depressed and anxious you become. That's not opinion, that's data. Non-posters broke free from that machine. They said, I can't win a competition that doesn't even exist. Because here's the thing that nobody says out loud. The competition is fake. Those people aren't actually doing better than you. They're just better at performing. They're better at filtering. They're better at lying. And non-posters realized, if I'm going to compare myself to people, I want to compare myself to real people, not digital ghosts. So they stopped posting, which means they removed themselves from the comparison game entirely. Now, when they scroll and see someone's highlight reel, they have psychological distance. They're observing, not competing. There's freedom in that. You can't lose a game you don't play. But here's what's really psychological. People who post a lot, they're not happier. They're more anxious. They're constantly monitoring how they stack up. Did her photo get more likes than mine? Why did she get more comments? What's wrong with my photo? That's slow psychological torture, and non-posters refuse to sign up for it. They chose something radical. They chose to measure their worth by their own internal standards, not by external metric. That's revolutionary. Now here's what nobody talks about. The real reason some people don't post. It goes deeper than psychology. It goes to the soul. People who rarely post are usually the ones who saw too much, too early. They learned something about human nature that most people spend their whole lives denying. That visibility attracts judgment. That sharing invites cruelty. That exposure has a price. Maybe they posted something once and got hurt. Maybe they watched someone they loved get mocked online. Maybe they just observed long enough to understand the rules of the game before they decided not to play. They learned that silence protects, that privacy heals, that some parts of your life shouldn't be for public consumption. Non-posters are not hiding. They're healing. They're growing in silence. They're learning that the world doesn't need to see everything for it to matter. Here's something that cuts. People who don't post are protecting wounds they don't talk about. Not all of them, but some of them. Some people stopped posting because posting felt like exposure. It felt like opening your wounds in front of strangers. And they said, no, this is sacred. This is mine. There's something called psychological reactance. When you feel like your freedom is being threatened, you rebel. Some people feel like social media is a psychological threat, a threat to their privacy, a threat to their autonomy, a threat to their inner world. So they went quiet. And in that quiet, something happened. Something healing, something strong. They don't post because they love their privacy, and they don't post because they fear losing it. Both are true. But there's also this. Silence is a form of power. When everyone is screaming for attention, the person who says nothing becomes the most interesting, the most mysterious, the most real. Non-posters understand this. They understand that not everything needs to be seen. Not every moment needs to be broadcast. Some moments are only real when they exist in your memory, not in pixels and code. And maybe that's the healthiest way to live. Here's what the research doesn't talk about. The shadow psychology of non-posting. There's something called the shadow self, the part of you that you don't show the world, the part that's angry, sad, lonely, struggling, the part that doesn't fit the highlight reel. People who don't post are protecting their shadow self. They're not pretending it doesn't exist. They're keeping it safe from judgment. And psychologically, that's brilliant. Because the more you expose your shadow self for public consumption, the more you start to hate it. You internalize the judgment. You believe it. You think, this part of me is unlovable. This part of me needs to be hidden. And depression follows. Anxiety follows. Self-hatred follows. But non-posters keep their shadow self-private. And something strange happens. They start to love it. They start to integrate it. They start to become whole. There's a psychological concept called ego wounds. Basically, the ways you've been psychologically hurt by society. Non-posters understand that posting reopens those wounds every single time. Every comment that's not what you expected. Every like that doesn't come. Every time someone misunderstands you. So they stopped. They protected the wounds. And they let them heal. Here's something that's almost poetic. Silence is not absence. It's power. Silence is not loneliness. It's protection. Non-posters are the ones who see everything and say nothing. They observe, they process, they grow, but they don't broadcast it. And in a world obsessed with visibility, that's a radical act of self-love. There's also something called hyper-awareness. Some people are just more aware, more sensitive to the toxicity of social media, more attuned to how it's manipulating them. These people often don't post because they can literally feel the psychological trap. They can sense it like a predator senses danger, and they run. But here's what's important. This isn't weakness, this isn't avoidance. This is wisdom. This is someone saying, I see the trap. I'm not walking into it. That takes more strength than posting ever could. So what do non-posters actually understand that we're all still figuring out? First, happiness is an inside job. It's not created by likes and comments and validation from strangers. The more dependent you become on external validation, the less control you have over your own emotional state. Non-posters know this. They're not addicted to that dopamine hit. They're free. Second, you don't need an audience for your life to be meaningful. Some of the most beautiful moments happen in complete silence. A conversation with someone who gets you, a sunset you watch alone, a personal breakthrough. These don't need to be seen to matter. They matter because they happened. That's enough. Third, the best relationships aren't built on social media. They're built on real presence, real vulnerability, real time. Non-posters protect this. They know that genuine connection happens offline, away from the algorithm, away from the audience. Fourth, your data is currency. Every post is information about you that's being sold, analyzed, and used against you. Non-posters are protecting their data. They're protecting their autonomy in the only way that matters anymore, by refusing to feed the machine. Fifth, your attention is your most valuable resource, and once you give it to the algorithm, it's gone. Non-posters guard their attention like it's sacred, because it is. And sixth, this is the big one. Non-posters believe something radical. The world doesn't deserve a front row seat to their life, not because they're arrogant, because they're wise, because they understand that some things are only valuable when they're private. They're not antisocial. They're not broken. They're actually more aware than most of us. They've seen through the illusion. They understand that social media is a system designed to addict you, compare you, and monetize your attention. And they said, no, that takes courage. Here's what I want to leave you with. The people who post nothing are not hiding. They're healing. They're growing in silence. They're learning that the world doesn't need to see everything for it to matter. Maybe your best friend, who never posts, isn't missing out. Maybe she figured it out first. Maybe she's protecting her peace in a world that's obsessed with performance. Maybe she's the one who's actually winning. You don't have to stop posting, but maybe ask yourself, am I posting because it brings me joy? Or am I posting because I'm scared of being forgotten? Am I sharing? Or am I performing? There's a difference, and if you're the kind of person who doesn't post, who keeps your life private, who grows in silence, don't let anyone make you feel like you're doing it wrong. You're not hiding. You're protecting something sacred, your peace. Thanks for watching. If this hit something in you, like and subscribe. And hey, do something today that you don't tell anyone about. Experience something just for you. Keep it. Keep that part of yourself safe. Silence is powerful.